everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a flawless foundation routine. I'm actually going to be using minimal products in today's video to show you guys that you don't need to have a huge makeup collection to have a flawless face. This video was actually requested by a subscriber and a family friend. Her name is Erin. She sent me her collection and asked me what would I do with her collection and kind of show her how to do it. So I thought this would be a great video for my channel to also show you guys that you don't need to have a ton of stuff to be able to look flawless and feel confident in your makeup. So let's just get right into it. So the first step to having flawless foundation is actually having a clean and prepped base. So that is washing your face and making sure it's moisturized so your foundation does not cling to any dry spots or patches. And then priming is the next step, obviously. Erin had the POREfessional, which fills in your pores and kind of mattifies your skin right in this area. So I'm going to be using the CoverFX mattifying primer because that's just what I have in my collection. With this step, I would actually also recommend using the L'Oreal Magic Lumi primer. This helps your skin look very plump and fresh, and I actually do think it helps with my foundation wearing better throughout the day. So I'm going to pump some of this onto my fingers, and then I'm just going to put it in my cheek area and at the tops of my forehead and around my mouth right here. And I like to rub that in. And then after that, I'm going to be using the mattifying primer in this area to help smooth out my pores and to help make sure my skin doesn't get too oily throughout the day, especially in this California weather that we're having. So I wouldn't say rub this one in, I would say kind of push it into the skin. So you can do this with the POREfessional also. And then Erin actually had a brush and a sponge in her collection, so I'm going to show you how to use the brush on one side and then the beauty sponge on the other side, and then you'll be able to figure out what kind of coverage you like and how the finish affects your foundation. So for the sponge, make sure you wash it, but make sure it's damp. So you shouldn't be able to wring any water out, and you can just smush it into a towel to make sure you get off all that extra water or anything that could be stuck in there. So you're gonna use this technique to bounce it on. You don't want to drag because then you're going to collect all the foundation into the sponge, and then you're not going to get as much coverage if you're swiping it on. So I'm actually going to be using the Fit Me Matte foundation. She had the Benefit Hello Flawless Oxygen one, but I prefer a matte foundation for what I'm going to be doing today. So I'm just gonna dot this all over my face. And now I'm going to use my beauty sponge and bounce this onto my face. When you apply your foundation, you don't want to apply a ton all at one go, because what if you don't need that much foundation? It's better to apply a thinner layer of foundation, because if you see you need a couple more spots, you can just put more foundation there or add a little bit of concealer there instead of having a super caked face and feeling like you're wearing a foundation mask. Obviously you can see I just bounced it into my skin and it looks like I'm not wearing a ton of foundation. So then on this side, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna dot just a little bit of foundation. And now with the brush, it depends on what kind of technique you like, but I kind of like to buff it in. So this is what I do. Kind of push it into my skin. And the brush gives better coverage than the sponge. So if you have more to cover up, it'd probably be better to use a brush. And then that is how the foundation looks with a brush on this side and a sponge on this side. I feel like I need a little more coverage on my cheek areas, so I'm gonna go ahead and with a little bit more foundation. It's better to go in with a little bit and apply more if you need it versus trying to take it off and rubbing off your makeup. My biggest tip for foundation is always less is more. That way it can look skin-like and it'll last a lot longer versus a thick layer that will be easier to sweat off. So that was pretty much it. That was really easy, right? We just popped on a little bit of foundation, and now I'm gonna go in with concealer to spot conceal a little bit of my problem areas. Now Erin didn't have a concealer, so I would like to recommend the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Concealer or the Too Faced Born This Way Concealer, which is really good in full coverage and it lasts a long time. I'm actually gonna get a little bit of this concealer. So with concealer, less is more too, so I applied a little bit here, just in my little problem area that I had. And then this looks like a lot, but I got like a couple dots of the concealer and I just spread it out. And I use this pointy part to blend it out. And the reason you don't want to use too much concealer under your eyes is because your eyes have a very thin, delicate layer of skin. And if you apply too much, it'll cake up very fast. Or if you feel like you have nothing to conceal under your eyes, you can just apply a thin layer of powder, which is typically what I do day to day, because I don't feel like I need concealer. And now I'm just applying a little bit more around my mouth area because I have a couple pimples that are bothering me. And then a little bit around my nose. Most girls get redness around their nose from their hormones and stuff, so just concealing with that. So I don't know if you can tell, I look very pale obviously, but I don't have a ton of foundation on. You don't want to apply a thick, heavy base on. And if you're using concealer, you usually have to set under your eyes. So Erin actually had a loose powder from Bare Minerals. I believe it was a translucent powder, so similar to that one is the Airspun powder or Laura Mercier loose setting powder. Both of these are translucent. I like this one for under my eyes. I like this one for my oilier areas because it helps control that a little bit better. But you don't have to set your foundation if you don't want to. If you feel it's not too tacky, it's not transferring, you can just leave it that way and apply your other products on top. I do prefer to set under my eyes because I get creases, so if you get creases, I recommend a thin layer of powder. Remember, less is more. If you apply a ton of powder on top, it's going to crease a lot faster rather than letting a thin layer sit on top of your skin so it can be a little more flexible. So what I'm gonna do is I turn my Airspun powder upside down and you can see we have powder in there, and look up so you can see the creases under my eyes, and I'm going to blend out those creases because if not, I'm going to be setting those creases in place. And then I get a little bit of translucent powder. I just set it. I'm not gonna bake it. You don't need to bake for this. I'm gonna go back in with a little bit. Same thing. I made sure I had no creases. I'm setting it with my sponge. I prefer to use a sponge when I'm setting under my eyes because I feel like if I use a brush, it's a little too rough and it applies too much powder. The sponge helps melt it into your skin a little bit. And into these areas that I'm a little oilier on. And then right in between my eyebrows, I have this little line. I get creasing, so I'm gonna go in a little bit of powder, and then right here, because I sweat under my lips, so this helps make it last a little bit longer. This is what I would recommend using a loose translucent powder for. And then this is a step that you don't need to do, but I would actually recommend doing it, is getting a face powder. It could be a powder with absolutely no color that's pressed, or this one that has a little bit of coverage. I use this on my cheek area to set that foundation in place so that when I try to blend stuff on top of it, it doesn't pick or skip areas of my face when I'm trying to blend. So I just, on a big powder brush, and I just loosely set it. And then I do bring it down my neck just a little bit. This powder is also good for taking with you in a travel bag or just in your purse and touching up if you get a little oily throughout the day, or if you're noticing that you're losing coverage like around your mouth or on certain areas of your face, especially if you're sweating. You can just go in and use a powder and touch it right back up, and then it's as good as new. It's like it never even happened. You can use a little bit of powder, a little bit of primer, a little bit of foundation, and you can get a flawless looking foundation. And this, I guarantee you, will last you all day. Especially because when I wear foundation, I'm wearing it for 10, 12, 16 hours some days, waking up at 6, not going to sleep till like 12. This foundation will last all day, I promise. I'm just gonna show you guys how I look like with everything else on top because I look kind of ghostly, and I'll just review what I said with you guys in a little bit. Okay guys, so that's it for my flawless foundation look using minimal products. I hope you learned something in today's video. If you did like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Leave some comments if you have any questions or if you would like to request another video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!